let me just be mindful of time. Yep, that's about my time done. Matt will probably jump on and steal the microphone off me if I go much longer than this. So without too much further ado, I am going to hand over to our first speaker. Are you there, first speaker?
I'm here.
Here he is. I can't see his face. It's just popped up. So over to you, Matt. I know we've got an amazing jam-packed session filled. Can't wait.
We do. So congrats to everyone for being here. We've got how many people on here? 30 people. So the numbers are really, really good. Everyone's showing up. In the chat section, I want to find out how you found last session. Like, who's excited? So last session, we did the money tree. We looked at some emotional stuff that was in the way. And also we started to work on your $1 million idea. Did you guys do the release work? Did you use the belief buster? And did you knock off anything that was in the way? Yes, good. See, the thing is that the programming gets in the way. Does everyone get that? The programming will absolutely hold you back. If you look at the people that actually make money, they typically have making money, not just money, the process of making money in their top 5 values. And so I want to do a little exercise with you right now. I want you to all shut your eyes, take a deep breath in. And as you do that, think of making money. And as you think of making money, what's the first emotion that comes up? And as you notice that, I want you to write it in the chat. I'm gonna have a look at this, guys. What was the first emotion? Fear. Hey, Chris Julian, welcome. We need to get you to do last session. That will help you release any fear. Look at this. We've got complacency. Nolene, we need to do some more mindset work. Peace, scary but exciting. This is good. This is me just testing you guys right now, because if you had done the work from last session, then you probably will have a positive relationship to money or the process of making money. Okay, I covered this last session, but it's good to go over it again. There is so much kind of programming that happens around money and the topic of money. And, like there's guilt associated to money. There are, money is being conditioned as the root of all evil. There's fear that is conditioned when it comes to money. There are parental patterns when it comes to money. There are media patterns when it comes to money. What if money isn't the issue, everybody? What if money is just a spotlight? What if money is a tool? What if it's a resource to be able to create? And so my belief is that, look, if you have really good values and you're coming from a different place in terms of your consciousness, what you will do with money will be incredible. Money will become a tool to be able to help, to be able to serve, to be able to make a difference. But what money also does is it puts a spotlight on that stuff. So if you've got interesting values when it comes to, business and money and all that type of stuff, money will put a spotlight on it. It'll also put a spotlight on all of the stuff that you do really well and really in a really good way. The unfortunate thing is that what sells papers is all of the, terrible stuff. And so you don't get to see all of the charities that have been launched, what money has been able to do to help people and serve and make a difference. We typically only get to see kind of all of the negative aspects of it. And so then people hold on to all of this kind of programming that almost repels money. Has anyone seen some people where they just attract? They're just like magnets, and they're able to create in such a way it seems effortless. Now, that is an example of what I would call towards kind of programming when it comes to money. And what that is that you're excited about it. You look at the best in the business, they love it. They love looking at money. They love nurturing money. They love taking care of it. Versus what a lot of people do is they avoid it. They avoid looking at it. They don't know where their position is. Okay, they're not organized around it. So imagine money was a beautiful woman or a beautiful man, and what would you do in that relationship? Would you take care of them? Would you put energy into that area? Would you, be present? The only way that we're not present is because we've got negative programming in the way. If you're leaving things to the last minute, if you're avoiding, it means there is stuff in the way. Like, it's very, very interesting. You look at the people that follow through. They typically love that area of life. Like, you look at someone that is getting incredible results around health over the long term, they love it. They love eating healthy. They love exercising. So they're naturally organized around it. They're naturally disciplined. The same thing happens with the money area of life, relationships, whatever it is. Remember, our top values, everybody, we will create order. Our top values, we will put more energy into these areas. Now, because money is taboo, sometimes if you've got like spiritual beliefs, money can be avoided. And I see a lot of spiritual people doing this. And they're like, well, no, the world's terrible. I want to disconnect, and I want to walk on the beach in Birkenstocks and just disconnect from the world, and the world's not conscious, and blah, 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 blah. Now, that is what, if you get into values levels, Claire Graves stuff, so that's what you call values level 6. But often it can be avoidance. It can be an avoidance, and then going and living in the spiritual world, well, I can just escape and it's more comfortable there than having to deal with reality of what's going on, which is the physical world, the mental world, the emotional world, and the spiritual world. When you've kind of got all of those connected, that's when you start to create. That's when things start to flow. That's when you have more energy. So I look at business and I look at all of this stuff as a very spiritual approach. And from that place, I look at it as polarities of energy. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit esoteric, everybody, but I look at it as like the polarity of giving and receiving. And when you have a flow, when it comes to giving and receiving in every area of life, whether it be your relationships, giving love and the ability to receive love, a mentor once said to me, if true love showed up, could you stay, or would your wounds destroy it? And back then I was like, yeah, my wounds would fuck it up for sure. But could you stay? Can you receive? So the interesting thing when it comes to money and the process of receiving, the pattern is the same. Receiving love versus receiving money. The pattern is often the same, which is why when you go and fix all of that stuff outside of, say, business or with your relationships or being able to receive love in your relationships, it has an impact when it comes to wealth. So we need to be in balance when it comes to giving and receiving. And we need to be in balance when it comes to giving and receiving in all areas of life. And this is why, like, I've coached some people recently, one guy in particular, Richie, I was able to do some incredible stuff with him. He'd been kind of hitting around, I think, the $1,000 a week in his business. And after only 2 sessions with him, I was able to get him to over 100K in his business. That's after 2 45-minute sessions over basically a month. Now, do you guys think that's pretty incredible? And the interesting thing was that I wasn't even looking at his business. I was just looking at the process of receiving. And so we then looked at, outside of this stuff. And I looked at his relationship with his parents, in particular his father, and the pattern of guilt that showed up when it came to receiving. So I then started to work on his relationship with his father. And he won't mind me sharing all this stuff with you. He, one of the things he said was that I never felt that my dad loved me. I never felt connected. And so I said, well, what's happening with your relationship now? And he said, well, I just avoid being around him. And every time I'm around him, he wants me to do stuff. Like we have to fix stuff around the house. And so my challenge to him, I did some emotional work, release guilt and all that type of stuff. But my challenge to him was, I want you to go and spend some time with your dad. And instead of you thinking that he should be a certain way, that he needs to communicate the way you want, he needs to communicate in a way, have certain behaviors that you want that mean love. I said, I want you to just be present and actually listen. Instead of trying to be a coach and change your dad and trying to fix him, what if there's nothing to fix? What if? And I said, with him and, him wanting to fix the house, what if that's bonding? What if that's the only way for him to be able to spend time with you that feels safe? And that is the process of bonding. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't realize this. So what did he do? He went and spent a weekend with his dad, and they went and fixed things. And he listened, whereas before he didn't. And he became present. And then all of a sudden, he started to realize all of the things that his dad was doing that was showing that he loved him. All of these little things that he'd never been present before. And so they went and fixed things around the house, and then they had a beer at the end of the day, and they were sitting on the beach, and his dad started to cry. And he said, this has been the best time of my life. He said, I don't know what's happened, but this has just been the most incredible experience. And they both started to cry. and now Richie's like, I can't wait to get back there and go and work around the house, because the patterns changed. See, all change is a change in meaning. When we change the story, we change our experience. When we change the meaning of behaviors, we change the experience. And so he was able to spend that time, which is a gift. But then what it did, it transformed his ability to receive. Because before that, there was blockages, there was walls up, there was defenses in place. And then as we started to open up that pattern where he felt okay receiving, where he realized that he had always been loved, then suddenly he went back into his business. Like magic, he did a 2K deal, just like that, from nowhere. Has anyone had that experience before in your business, like deals just pop up from nowhere and you don't know where they've come from? Who's had that experience? Type yes. And maybe you've been working hard and, you've been marketing and doing all this type of stuff, and then suddenly bang, a deal pops up and you're like, wow, I have no idea where that happened, where they came from. But it's almost like when you're ready and you start to be okay with getting out there, then that energy kind of attracts people. And I really believe in that. A lot of people go, oh, Matt, it's not energy and all that type of stuff. Well, yeah, maybe it is. You walk into a room, two people have had an argument. They don't need to say anything. You can feel it. We know like attracts like. But what a lot of people do is that they put messages out there, but they don't feel worth it. So they're only putting part of a message out there. But when you open up and balance the patterns of giving and receiving, it is like a connection. So another way to look at it is, imagine, you plug a toaster in, and if you take away the negative charge, you've only got a positive charge, well, there's going to be no circuit. Is everyone with me? You need to have both charges. You have to have both charges to create a circuit. Okay, even more interesting is this concept of gratitude when it comes to the energy that you put out there. A lot of the time, you've heard this before, when you're grateful, you're rich. Or when you're grateful, you attract more. Who's had that experience? And there is a gap in consciousness that happens when you purchase and when you do deals. Today, we're going to talk about deals. But there are micro deals that you do, and then there are obviously macro deals that you do that are more complex. But think of the micro deals that you do on an ongoing basis and your experience of those deals. For instance, you go to Woolworths. I think I shared this, one of our sessions previously, but you go to Woolworths, okay, or Coles, or any deal that you do that is kind of a micro deal. And a lot of the time, what would happen is that I would be like, oh my God, food prices are just out of control. This is terrible. And this is the little story that would be playing inside of my head before I handed over the credit card. Okay, of anger, resentment. And so I'm doing deals with anger and resentment. I'm putting that energy out there on micro deals. Now, guess what? That is a reflection. If it's happening at a micro level, it is happening at a macro level. And I was like, oh my God, I'm doing deals with anger and resentment. That's what I'm doing. This concept of cause versus effect, everybody, it is so powerful. Okay? And so then what I started to do is I started to shift that. And I started to change the story. See, there's a gap in consciousness just before you do a deal. Is everyone with me? Just before you hand that credit card over. What is going through your head? Are you thinking, you know, this is terrible? I'm being screwed? Are you feeling resentment? Because that's what you put out there. Like attracts like. And I started to change this. And I started to think, as I handed my credit card over, I started to think, wow, all of this food here, I didn't have to grow it. I didn't have to package it. I didn't have to source it. All I've got to do is walk in here with a trolley and it's all waiting for me. And then I started to really play that story and really bring forth this incredible, you know, gratitude. And then I'd hand the credit card over and everything started to change because I then started to engage with the shop attendant. Whereas before I wasn't. I was like grumpy and looking away and resentful. And suddenly instead I was like grateful. Thank you. Thank you for giving your time. Thank you for this organization to provide this stuff because it's, you know, fundamentally keeping me alive. And I've got access to all of this fresh food. You know, it's incredible. But something amazing started to happen. I started to build relationships. I started to build connections. And some people that I actually met over the counter at, you know, at different phases actually came and started to work for me on call centers and all that type of stuff over the years. But it really started to change everything. It started to change how I felt about the world. But more specifically, the more I started to do that, the more I started to attract opportunities, everybody. Now, isn't that interesting? The more I started to attract deals that were really, you know, incredible deals, where the process was very, very simple and each party was incredibly grateful. I want you to think about this cause versus effect. Every action has an equal or opposite reaction. Think about that. So a lot of you are in business or wanting to get into business. Some of you are coaches. And this is a big awakening for me as well. When I started to look at this, well, cause versus effect. Well, how I'm doing deals will reflect. And that's what I will attract. So then I thought to myself, well, how am I as a client? Okay, like I know the type of client I want, but how am I as a client? What am I putting out there as an actual client? And I thought to myself, well, you know, the clients that I want are very, very committed. They don't hesitate. They don't sit on the fence. They make decisions like that. And if you think about it, everyone knows at a deep level when they want to do something. Like it's that instant message. We know. But then kind of the ego or the analytics gets in the way of, oh, you know, I shouldn't and all that type of stuff. But at a deep level, you know straight away. And so, like, I wanted people that were committed, that were grateful, that made decisions quickly. I wanted clients that would give referrals. I would want clients that re-sign into coaching. And I wanted clients where I could create an incredible friendship. Is everyone with me? Now, I looked at myself and I thought, well, how am I as a client? And I thought, I am terrible. I am a terrible, terrible client. And I thought to myself, well, look, do I make decisions quick? And I was like, no, I don't. I negotiate hard and I make sure I win. This is me in the past. I'm like, I would hate to be sitting down and negotiating with me. It would be terrible. And I thought to myself, well, so I don't make decisions quickly. I don't give referrals. Interesting, huh? I don't give testimonials. And I'm not that committed, really, when you look at it from that perspective. I'm a nightmare. And I thought me being a nightmare was a really good thing. I was like, yeah, that's me being, a great negotiator, a really successful entrepreneur. Like that's, it's winning the deal. It's, win-lose type of situation. And you don't realize it until you step back and you do an audit of your behavior. And you do an audit of, well, what's going through your communication in terms of the stories that you're playing inside? What's happening around your behavior? And how are you actually feeling? And what are you putting out there? And even I was like, I don't want to get screwed. Now, isn't that interesting? These were the things that were coming out. And of course, guess what I was attracting? And so this happens on a micro level, and it also happens on a macro. This is what I want you to understand. The little deals are reflections of the big deals. Please write that down. The process that you go through of the little deals reflect the big deals. Cause versus effect. What are you putting out there? Because I guarantee you will get it back. And so I was like, I need to be squeaky clean in everything I do. The small deals, the big deals, everything. And I remember this one experience. I was running the Troublemakers Business Breakout, which is like a high-level mastermind group that I run with my business partner who's about to talk to you today. And I was running late and I was sprinting down kind of Manly Wharf. And then I just get onto this ferry, the fast ferry. And the guy said, look, don't worry about paying. It's okay. Just pay us later. Now, instantly in my mind, it started to play. I've just got a free ferry ride. Fantastic. It was like, well, I'm not going to pay later. I've got a free ferry ride. I changed it straight away and I walked straight up and I paid for that ferry ride, that fast ferry. And that was really kind of profound for me, just catching myself in that moment. And I think that's what the key is to be able to catch ourselves in those moments. And so I went and did that. And then later that day, I did like a 20K deal that came from nowhere. Now, isn't that amazing? It just came, attracted from nowhere. And it was a simple deal. And the person that we were dealing with, like, just loved the experience. They were committed. They made decisions quickly. It was incredible. And so if I look at my clients now that I work with, like I have an 80+% re-sign ratio with my clients. And my rates are typically around $1,000 an hour plus. An 80+% re-sign ratio with my clients. And this started to happen the minute I started to look at myself. The minute I started to change the relationship with the people that I was dealing with, I started to, sorry, what's this, Adriani? Are you saying we shouldn't receive anything for free, then isn't accepting receiving? No, but that wasn't the deal. The deal in that situation was to pay later. And my mind just went, oh, I've got a free ferry ride. So the parameters of the deal, if that's making sense. I do a lot for free, but I also receive an enormous amount. Okay, it comes down to the deal. What are the parameters of the deal will tell you everything. Is everyone with me? Because sometimes do people blur the lines when it comes to a deal on purpose? Not write the deal down, not understand all the mechanics of it, overcommit to something that they're not truly wanting just to make someone else happy. So all of our wounds come up in a deal. Isn't that interesting? How you do a deal tells me absolutely everything. And so I changed this, and as I said, had a profound effect on my clients. I started to attract clients that would re-sign, more committed, more testimonials. Things started to flow a whole lot more. Very, very exciting. But also I started to really catch some of my clients on this. One example was one of my clients was like, okay, I want to do Ultimate Life Recharge. And then I said, okay, are you committed? Are you committed to doing Ultimate Life Recharge? And he said, I'm 100% committed. Okay, now think about that, the words that we use. And maybe you've had this experience before. And he said, I'm 100% committed. Yes, I'm in. So you've got to understand, like a retreat like Ultimate Life Recharge, there's certain amounts of rooms. We've got to say no to other people, all of that type of thing. So then 2 weeks later, guess what happened? Oh, no, I can't do it. It's just not the right time. And then all of these other excuses started. And I said, well, no. You said I'm 100% committed. How often do we commit when we're not really committed? Or we say we're committed to make other people happy? Or we overcommit because it is a wound. And so I held him accountable. I said, no. 2 weeks ago, you said you're 100% committed. 100% committed means 100% committed. And by the way, I didn't give a shit whether he came to Ultimate Life Recharge or not. I wanted to use this as a coaching opportunity. And I said, you said you're 100% committed. Now everything's changed. And now you've gone and blamed everyone else. You've gone and blamed your partner. You've gone and blamed this other person. When you said you were 100% committed. And so I said to him, well, how is this a reflection of your life? How is this a reflection of all of the deals that you make? And he said, oh my God, this is what I do. I get really, really excited. I overpromise. I commit and overpromise. And then when it comes down to it, I know I can't deliver. And then I go and blame other people. And yet his value, one of his values was integrity and being true to your word. Now, isn't that interesting? And so I helped him with this. And I said, no, we've got to come off the heightened inflation. Because when you increase emotion, you decrease intelligence. So here was a wound of him being a people pleaser, going, oh, here's this new person. Oh, I need to make them happy, and increase emotion, decrease intelligence, overcommitting, saying yes to all of these things, not even working out whether he can actually deliver, not even working out whether he actually even wants this, and then suddenly starts a relationship that way, and then long-term ends in disaster. And so I got him off that pattern. And I said, no, we do deals with peace, everybody. We do deals with peace. Not the inflated high, not the inflated low, in the moment. Now think about that. Because often what will follow an inflation is a deflation. And this is the thing where people go into a deal, they're desperate or whatever it is. But what if you could let go and you could be in present time? You could be at cause, not operating from wounds, but actually at cause. Because when you're present, you access a different level of creativity. See, one of the things that happens when I do deals is I'm just in peace and I'm listening most of the time. And a lot of the time people are like, they're pitching and they're like, he's not saying anything. But I'm at peace. And I'm doing my best to be in that moment. Now, the bigger the deal that happens, what will happen is that all of your wounds will come up. Okay? The bigger the deal, the more complex the wounds are. Sorry, the more complex the deal is. And the more your wounds will fire. So this is why the deal is so important. A balance of giving and receiving is a neutral point. Okay? So is this interesting, everybody? And the reason I'm sharing this is because we've just gone through this process where we're releasing patterns around money, and we've started to get some clarity around, okay, well, these are all of the ideas that are coming through, the multi-million-dollar ideas. So really the next phase is deal making. Entrepreneurs, deal makers, please write that down somewhere. That's what you do. And the deals start small, and then they move to macro deals. They move to bigger deals. And really what happens is that every deal is teaching you and preparing you for the next one. Sabina, especially from our last conversation, last session, wounds are making decisions. This is what I say to my clients. Like, who's actually running your business? Is it you or is it your mum? Because your mum's voice is in your head. Or is it your dad's? Or is it some other authority that may be looking at the world as in a limiting way? How you start is how you finish. Please write that down. How you start is often how you finish. Okay? Just like if someone's sitting down with me and they're aggressive and they're pressuring me, could that be a reflection of our business relationship moving forward? Like, there's no pressure at that point in time. What if we do a deal, we do a joint venture, and then we've got cash flow issues? What's going to happen then? Well, this aggressive behavior is probably going to come out. Is that correct? So how you start is how you finish. A lot of people think they have to say yes to every single deal because that's their wounds. I need to please everyone. I don't want to let everyone down, so then I say yes to every deal. Whereas you look at someone like Warren Buffett, who says no to basically 90% of the deals that come through. And what's interesting when it comes to billionaires and when they do deals is they're not actually even looking at ROI as a first instance. What they're actually looking at is protection. Protection, liquidity, how do I get my money back? Then ROI. Whereas a lot of people, when they do deals, what are they thinking? They're inflated. Oh my God, I'm going to earn all of this money, so I'm not going to look at the details. And again, we need to balance it. All right, everyone take a deep breath in and out. So if we look at the PowerPoint at the moment, entrepreneurs are deal makers. That's what we are. We start off with micro deals. We move to bigger deals. The key is that we need to look at every deal, do an audit of that deal, and then we grow as entrepreneurs. Okay, it's all about the deal. Next one, as the deals get bigger, as I said to you before, they become more complex. And this is where you really need mentors and a support team to be able to help you with those specific deals. This is why, you have mentors because they teach you this stuff. They open up new networks and they teach you how to do the deals. So next slide. The apprentice versus the master. Some of you have heard me say this before, but I think this is very, very powerful. The apprentice versus the master. See, a lot of people they stop being the apprentice. And they stop being the apprentice typically, at school. Stop learning at school, HSC's done or uni's done, and then they think, oh, well, goodbye to education. I don't need to learn anymore. But if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs out there, as we've discussed in this training, is they're always learning. And what they're learning, what they're interested in learning, and please write this down again, is results. That's what they're interested in. Whereas, the schooling system, university, often has generalized information, whereas the new world is learning from people that actually get results. And you can see this, especially in a small to medium business environment. People that kind of have those mainstream degrees are often kind of looked upon as generalists, whereas what we're interested in is specialists. Specialists, for instance, if you can take me from here to here faster than I can do it for myself, or you can save me years, then I'll pay you anything. And that's what it is. That's why you're in a mastermind group like this. Like, the return on investment is enormous from a mastermind like this. Like, you guys paid $1,500 or whatever it is. How much bigger is the return on investment? Would you guys agree? Like, just one of these sessions. Do you think if you come into deals in a different way, it'll save you more than $1,500? What do you think? Give me a yes. So the return on investment, I'm not getting yeses here. Here we go. Very good. So the return on investment from a mastermind group like this, it's enormous. It's 100-fold if you really apply this stuff. Okay. Also, the return on time is enormous as well. Like, you think about that. Like, when you're learning from someone that has results, what you're really learning is how to save time, because they've taken, 10 years or 5 years or whatever it is to get to that position. They're teaching you all of the pitfalls. That's why having a master is really, really important. And if you look at the people that succeed, especially in this space at the moment, in the entrepreneurial space, they have masters, they have coaches, they have experts, they have masters that they're working with. What just happens is that you get more money as you start to do bigger deals, and you attract masters that are more successful, and you work directly with them. And the next thing that happens is that if you're a good apprentice, now my definition of a really good apprentice is someone that has a willingness to learn that is 10 out of 10. Like 10 out of 10. Think about that. To me, a willingness to learn that is 10 out of 10 is like that whatever it takes. That commitment. Think of those old kind of metaphors of the master and the student, or the monk and the student. And the student, sits outside of the cave. Even Jedi, like the Star Wars, trilogies, multiple trilogies. But if you look at one of the recent ones, and she sits out the front of the cave, if you've seen that, where Luke Skywalker is, and she just sits out there for days and she doesn't leave. That's an example of an apprentice that would do whatever it takes to learn. The commitment level is enormous. They'll do whatever it takes. They will show up. Their willingness to learn is 10 out of 10. And the willingness to learn, being 10 out of 10 is that they've emptied the cup. Bruce Lee said it, is the cup half full, is the cup half empty? And you'd have students that would come to him that, have studied in all of these different martial arts. And he would say, well, I can't teach you. Your ego's too high. All of the programming, all of the information that you have at the moment is going to go against what I'm going to teach you. You have to empty your cup. You have to create space. Now, why is this important when it comes to doing deals? My God, it's so important. How often can our ego get in the way and we miss opportunities, or we miss the little things, or we don't learn because we've got this know-it-all mentality? The problem with the know-it-all mentality is you're right. If you think you know it all, you're right. You stop learning. It puts a cap over your unconscious mind, and no more information can come in. Whereas if you've got an apprentice mindset, that means that the cup is empty and you're willing to learn. And this is what I say, like, if you find a master or a mentor, commit to them. I typically choose one mentor a year, and I am the ultimate apprentice. I will do whatever they say. I will extract everything, every resource that they're willing to give, I will extract. Okay, whereas what a lot of people do is they've got multiple masters all over the place. They're reading multiple books. They've got a scattergun approach. They're not committed. Whereas, like, I choose the mentor based on, I want this result. This is a specific result. Remember I said to you, education based on results. And I learn from someone that is actually getting that specific result. And so the apprentice mindset is, you've got to be 10 out of 10. Okay? Your willingness to learn needs to be 10 out of 10. Your willingness to change, this is a big one, needs to be 10 out of 10. See, some people say that they're willing to change, but they're not. Can anyone relate to that? Yep. I've been there too. And I've spoken a good game. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally committed. Or, yes, I'm 100% in, when I'm not. Remember, we measure commitment by behavior, not what someone says, by their behavior. So the willingness to change is a high degree of commitment, which is that willingness to do whatever it takes. Like, if there was a mentor that was actually, going to help me achieve whatever it is, this specific result, and there was a certain value on that result, well, then I would do whatever it takes. I would fly anywhere. I would be the ultimate apprentice, because I know, and this is a big one, I know if I am the ultimate apprentice, then this master is going to spend more time with me. This master is going to nurture me. This master is going to support me to be the best I can be because I'm the ultimate apprentice. And if I prove myself as an apprentice, then this master is going to open up the next thing, which is their network. And the network is the key. See, the master has a different network to you. They're attracting a different type of person than you. Okay, remember, it's a result. For someone to be getting a certain result, it means that they've got a different set of values, a different set of belief systems, a different set of behaviors. And those behaviors, those values, that communication, all of that synergizes into a different energy, a different vibration. Like attracts like. Okay? And so this is where, if you are the right apprentice, they will not only open up their network, they will teach you how to do deals within that network. Okay? Remember I said it's just about deals. The deals go from being micro deals to macro deals. The deals get more complex. Well, if you're the right apprentice, and if you're the right apprentice, you will attract the right master. This is the thing. You've probably heard this before. When, the apprentice is ready, the master will show up. So if you are the right apprentice, this master will invest more time with you. And this master will then open up their network, and then they will educate you. They will coach you on how to do deals at a higher level. Is this making sense, everybody? Is this good? And so if you don't have a master, guess what? You're not the right apprentice. That means you're not committed. That means you're not willing to learn. Think about that. If you don't have a master. Now, see, one of the things is you pay for a master. Please write that down. You pay for it. That's what you do. A lot of people are, I should get it for free or whatever it is. No, you pay for masters. Why do you pay for masters? Why do you think you do that? Write it down. Why do you think you pay for a master? Commitment, 100%. There needs to be an equal exchange. There has to be. Remember, the deal needs to be a balance of giving and receiving. A balance of giving and receiving. Write it down again. So if you're taking too much, let me tell you, the master won't be there that long. And what you pay for is the education, but you also pay for the network to be able to do deals. If you look at any high-level speaker, they've got 100K mastermind groups, 200K mastermind groups, even, $500,000 to $1 million mastermind groups. Now, the reason you would do that is because they're going to teach you how to do deals within that network. And the return on investment is typically going to be tenfold. That's why you do it. Okay? So if you don't have a master, you've got to look at your willingness to learn, and you've got to look at your willingness to change. See, a lot of people say to me, I'm committed to changing, but they're actually not. Okay? Like, if you want to change your life, I love this quote. You've heard me say this before. If you want to change your life, you actually have to change something in your life. Like, if you want to change your life, you actually have to change something. Okay, cool. Before I move on, is there any questions around this aspect? Your network is your net worth. See, once you get the bread and butter handled, and this is why I love coaching as a start business, because it teaches you about different personalities. It's a great way to learn about, business, career, relationships, health. It's really also a great vehicle to use as market research, because you're able to coach the customer of a, future business that you're interested in. And you're able to find out at a deep level, what are the stories? What are the fears? What are the behaviors that are kind of holding that person back? And it's a great business to kind of handle bread and butter, like income and all that type of stuff. When you handle the basic stresses, then it creates space to do bigger stuff. And this is where your network is so important. Your network is your net worth. This is where you might be able to, once you've kind of gone up the level, gone from micro to macro deals, it might be one, two, or three deals that give you a return on investment that is years worth of a salary. all in a moment, all in a deal. Julian's going to talk to you about this. This guy is amazing at doing deals. This is one of my mentors, business partner in the Troublemakers. And, you know, these deals are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And they've taken less time than it would take, you know, to sometimes eat your breakfast. And it comes down to your network. Your network is your net worth. But you have to earn the right. You have to earn the right to be playing each of those games. Now, how do you earn the right, as I said to you, is that you get masters that help you grow, that challenge you, that help you do the deals or do the deal for you to teach you. And then suddenly you're now operating at a different level, at a different playing field. So is there any questions at all before I move on to this? Your network is your net worth. The apprentice, the master, the network. If you think this model is what the building industry has used, haven't they? The apprentice, the master builder, and then the apprentice evolves to the master, then has another apprentice that works with them, and so on and so on. So is there any questions about this? Sabina, what have we got here? To be able to catch the thief is powerful. Thanks. What do you mean by that? Who's the thief? Hang on, I can't hear you at the moment. Let's unmute you.
Hi, Matt. I was just saying that the thief in the sense of the micro mind or the wounds or whatever that's making the little minute decision, not being consciously aware and to be able to consciously catch is what I find to be what you just said. It's quite powerful. So the thief is that unconscious mind, I guess, not knowing.
It is. And that's where you get like a leakage of energy.
Yeah.
That starts to happen. And it tells you everything. Like in that moment, as you're about to do the deal, what's the story that's playing? And are you inflated? Are you deflated? Are you in present time? Do you feel pressured? Are you trying to make people feel happy? Do you even know what you want? That's a really interesting one where people are so focused on giving, they have no idea what they want. Think of all the deals that you've done like that in relationships, everybody, outside of business.
Yeah.
Where, like the rescuer, where they're distracting themselves by other people's dramas, and they feel wonderful because they're recognized as a hero or whatever it is, but that feeling doesn't last, and they're actually exhausted. So it's looking at the deals that happen in your personal relationships, the deals that happen in business. It's all a reflection. And looking at where are the wounds showing up. Like for some of you, you're in a job right now and you're not promoting yourself. Or some of you are sitting there and you're like, you hate sales. Well, if you hate sales and you think you're going to be screwed, well, then you will probably do that to another person. It's all a projection when the deal comes along. Or conversely, you'll screw yourself by not promoting yourself. Is everyone with me? The deal is so interesting. The relationship deal is so interesting. All right, Crystal, it's easy to say, I want to change, but what happens when the wounds reappear and what feels like it traps you once again? Let's have a chat. Crystal.
Hi, Matt.
Hello. Where is this showing up specifically?
I definitely feel like it shows up in different areas of my life. Right? Well, with Lefty's Lounge, yes. And one way is when I'm studying. When I'm learning in school, sometimes I get overwhelmed and I'll say to myself, this is too hard. I'm not good at this, or, whatever it is, the wound starts to reappear once the task becomes too hard. And I just feel in myself, even in relationships, personal relationships or love relationships, I become so overwhelmed that I almost feel like I just crawl back into my shell. And I shut everything and everyone down.
So look at this. It's the overwhelm pattern. If I get too overwhelmed, then I go into rejection. And that's where you reject yourself. Okay. Which is, I'm not good enough. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. I can't do it. I'm not good enough. So that's a process of rejecting yourself. Or conversely, you reject other people.
Yeah. which in
Or-
turn hurts other people or me.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And they may, in some cases, may not even know why they're being rejected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because it's just safe. It's safe because what if you did get everything you wanted? What if?
Well, it could be a good and bad thing.
Well, there you go. It's the bad thing that's the issue.
Oh.
Remember I said, what if true love showed up? Could you stay?
Well, I already proved to myself that's a no because of what I'm going through right now. Yes.
Yeah. So that's what we've got to look at is this concept of feeling worth it. And so what if the deal of your life showed up, everybody? Could you stay? What if it was a big deal? Could you stay? Got Diane clapping her hands, who's used to doing deals. But could you stay? Like, think of this Lefties brand, Crystal. What if a $10 million deal popped up with some very savvy investors? Could you stay, or would the wounds stuff it up? And I can already tell by your body language. And I don't know if anyone else can see this at the moment. Your eye patterns, your breathing.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of that level of certainty going, yes, bring it. There was a hesitation. And the hesitation is the story that is in the way. Remember I said the story. What is the story that plays just before you're about to do the deal?
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right.
So my suggestion for you, how you get this handled, for you it's going to be in relationships. For you it's going to be around love. Being okay with receiving. And being okay feeling worth it. That's going to be the biggest one. And it's going to require you to get out of control and being vulnerable. See, vulnerability is the most powerful state. It's the most powerful. It's unsafe initially because the wounds will tell you it's unsafe, but it's moving through that. See, it's so often people's wounds limit their experience in life of what they can have or what they deserve. You know, what if you're a couple of deals away if you did this work of creating something so incredible, bigger than you can possibly ever imagine? See, there are quantum possibilities, everybody. There are quantum possibilities to have whatever you want so quickly because there are people out there doing it. And you'll hear from Julian. Like, he's out there doing deals that are incredible, but he's been a deal maker all of his life.
Mm-hmm. And
so he's learned every step of the way. And the deals have just got more complex, they've got bigger and all of these things. But he was born with an incredible sense of worth, self-worth, of what he believes he deserves, so on and so on. So it's made him a really good deal maker. And he's probably done some dodgy deals in his past, but he's learnt to get to this point. If you hear his story, you'll be like, yeah, he probably has. But it's the art of the deal. And these deals reflect in all of the relationships everywhere. So if you've had mentors in your life, i.e. parents, that have taught you maybe the wrong ways to do deals, or past relationships that have conditioned the wrong way to do deals, then you're left with that education. And so this is why, like, this is perfect here. You being the apprentice and being on this means that you're kind of ready to work on it.
Yeah.
And you're working with Miranda, I think.
Yeah.
And so this is the formula. But if you want to move really, really quick, you've got to be the ultimate apprentice. And you're kind of doing that, Crystal, at the moment. You're the one that's putting the hand up and really jumping in. You're getting a lot of my time because you're making the most noise at the moment. So that tells me your willingness to learn is really high at the moment. Your willingness to change is really high at the moment, which means that you'll extract the most out of this mastermind group. But if you think of this mastermind group at the moment, like, how amazing is it? You're all apprentices. We've brought in my masters, but also we've created a network here that you wouldn't have previously. And that's a network of 30 other people here that are successful in different fields, successful in, health and fitness, successful in property. There's accountants on here. There's so much resource. There's so much available knowledge here that most of you are not tapping into at the moment. And so if you think of this model here, is you guys are the apprentices, we've got masters, and here is this amazing network that you could do deals from within this network right now. Or if you wow Julian and I, and we go, right, okay, we want to be one of your masters, and we reach out and go, right, we want to work with you directly, then you working with us, then guess what? You get access to our networks if you are the right apprentice. See how it works. Making sense?
Yeah.
So Crystal, we've got to work on some of these wounds to get you to the point where your self-image is so switched on that you feel worth it. That you're ready. Like imagine Oprah came along and said, look, I want you to come on stage. I want to interview you. Okay, would you be ready? And this is the thing. We've got to always be ready. We've got to be ready now.
Right.
That's the thing, psychologically. We've got to be ready now to pounce, to take on those opportunities. Okay? Sound pretty good, Crystal? So I would say to you, we've got to work on love. And really it's love in a relationship in the context of you. And really build that self-image that you're worth it. And again, it's that concept. If true love showed up, could you stay? Or if the deal of the century showed up, could you stay? Or would your wounds take you out of it? Okay, awesome. Big round of applause, everybody.
Thank you.
I love it, Diane. Diane's straight in here. I'm here. Anyone that wants to have a chat about creating or expanding property, why wouldn't you jump on this, wherever you are? This is the thing. Why wouldn't you jump on an opportunity like that? Someone's created a $10 million plus portfolio. Why wouldn't you be lining up going, I want to be your apprentice? That's the thing. Okay, excellent. Is there any other question? Any other questions, I should say? We've got 34 people on here today. This is great. Nolene, good. I love it. Any other questions at all about apprentice, master, network? Network is your net worth. Going once, going twice. That's my time. Okay, cool. I've got some more time. Alrighty. What I'm going to do is go through the mechanics of a deal. Would you guys that? Yes, no, maybe? Can everyone hear me? Or am I frozen? Okay, good. Let's talk about the art of the deal now, everybody. So negotiation and deals. Most people have no idea how to properly negotiate a deal for a win. It's not about you, it's about them. So a lot of the time, there's a whole lot of preparation that is done during and before any deal that starts to happen. So if we go to the next slide. So one of the things that I start to do is I've already got a kind of like an inkling of what my deal is, but I want to do a mind read initially of the people that I'm dealing with. And I like to start with going, well, what's their deal? What's their ideal deal, I should say. And I just kind of float into their body. In NLP, we call it entering the other person's model of the world. And so I'm like, okay, imagine I'm sitting there and I'm pitching me right now. And I do a mind read and I go, what would they be thinking right now? What would their ideal deal be? What would they want? What would I go for? And I just start to jot it all down. Okay. Then from there, then I start to work on my ideal deal. Okay. So it gets into this concept of to achieve any success, all that I need to do is just help enough other people, the Zig Ziglar type of concept. So how can I make them successful? Please write that down. How can I make them successful? How can I help them? And so I'll brainstorm this before the meeting, and I'll brainstorm my ideal deal. But then I will sit in a meeting, and then what I'll do is I will just sit there and start gathering information. And so a lot of the time I'm wearing a black t-shirt as well. They're often suited up. And I'm like this little smiling assassin that's sitting in the corner. But typically what I'm doing is that I'm gathering a whole lot of information. I'm asking a whole lot of questions. And look, I want to find out what their fears are. So I will also start to go, well, what's the worst situation? What are your fears? What are your concerns? And I'll also ask questions like, what is the best outcome? And so they're talking probably 10 times more than I am, because I'm asking open-ended questions and I'm just jotting notes down. Well, these days, it's just, I'm recording it in my mind. Is that making sense? So I want to get as much information as possible. And also, I have a firm belief that there are so many deals out there. There's an abundance. You may want to write that down. There is an abundance of opportunity. There are an abundance of deals. And a lot of the time, people will, if they're good at sales, they'll probably kind of set it up in a way that this is a deal of a lifetime. They'll use urgency, all that type of stuff. But I have a firm belief there are quantum possibilities to have what I want, and there are quantum opportunities, especially if I'm working with the right master and I'm getting access to the right networks. So I'm not swayed. I'm like, I can take it or leave it. Notice how I'm at peace. I'm neutral. I'm not attached to the deal. And so therefore, none of those types of weapons can actually work, because I'm willing to walk away. Because again, I believe there are so many opportunities out there. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So this is kind of going on in my mind. What's their deal? What's my ideal? And then we start to work on all of the deal points. So I'll come up with my deal points, and then I'll work out what their deal points are. And typically, this is just from me asking questions. So what's their biggest desire? Okay, well, I'll write this down. What's the best case scenario? I'll write this down. What's the worst case scenario? Again, I'll write this down, because I know the opposite of the worst case is actually what they want. And so I'll write down all of the deal points for them. I'll also write down all of the deal points for myself. And so the deal points also might be the numbers, the percentages, if we're doing a percentage type deal, joint venture, all that type of stuff. If I'm taking ownership of the company, I'm going to write down all of the deal points, their deal points, my deal points. And then you can see what I've got is a nice to have, a want, a must have. And so then I start to circle, well, what's my musts? What am I not willing to move on? And then what are the nice to haves or wants? So now I know how I can negotiate and be flexible. Is everyone with me? I can throw a carrot, which is a nice to have, in order to get a must. So I can be flexible on the things that I've circled that are nice to have, but not flexible on the musts. So I can come across and negotiate and go, oh, well, I'm flexible on this one, and then go really hard on the musts. Is everyone with me? Okay, so I've listed 5 here, but this could be 20. And so I list all the deal points, okay? And then I go through nice to have, well, it's a want or a must. I could give an example. So if I was doing a deal and, like I wanted, say, I don't know, 7% of the company or something like that. That's a must have. I'm not going to negotiate it at all. That's, my point. I'm not going to go below that 7% or whatever it is. That is a must have. For instance, I might be negotiable on, the database or, marketing collateral or, all of those types of things. but I'm not negotiable on the numbers, or that's my low point. Now, because that's my lowest point, I might start off a little bit higher. I might start negotiating at 10% or whatever it is, and then move down to 7% or something like that, depending on what the deal is. Is everyone with me? Yes, no, maybe. Crystal. Can I give an example of their ideal versus my ideal? Okay. Well, one deal I did was a joint venture, and it was a company called Caliber. And so I went into negotiation with them. So the ideal situation was they had a lot of resources. So they had a big office, they had a call center, 100-seat call center. They had, a database that was quite big, and all of that type of stuff. So these were all of the like ideal situations for me. Okay, their ideal was that they wanted another product offering that was different from their current product offering because it was outdated. They were going through some cash flow problems, so they needed, a different offering that had high margins, which was obviously mine. And there were so many other things. They wanted my IP to a degree. They wanted also my coaching support as part of the package. So I need coaching the directors of the organization. So that was all of their deal points and all that type of stuff. But then we got into negotiation. They wanted 80% ownership. So we were forming a new company called Caliber Events. They wanted ownership of 80%. Now, I was only really willing to offer, say 49%, me 51%. And so that was my must in this situation. I wanted 49%, and I also wanted operational control. And the reason is because none of these guys were interested in personal development. Their decisions could actually impact the trajectory of the company. And also I wanted a controlling interest in the business. So when it came to the deal points, mine was like 49%. Okay. And so I went in lower. They went in higher and I went in lower. And then I went through this process with them, and then we negotiated. I put a value on all of my IP. I put a value on all of my courses. I put a value on the database that I had, and so on and so on. So I used those points to be able to negotiate a successful deal there, and I was successful. So I maintained ownership, and the JV didn't really work out. And the big thing that I learned from that JV is that you want to go into business with people that actually believe in your product, that are examples of your product. See, the business partner that I went into business with, he was more interested in making money than actually the information and the personal development, coaching, trainings, all that type of stuff. He actually needed to do those trainings. His key members, his key leaders needed to do those trainings, but they weren't interested in it. And so that was a very interesting thing for me, because I went in with that mindset as well. So like he came in with that mindset of, oh, well, I want to make a whole lot of money. I came in with that mindset, well, I wanted all of your resources. I wanted your call center. I wanted your office. I want to turn that into a seminar room, which I did, all of those things. So it was a very, very interesting situation there, and a good learning experience for me. And unfortunately, what happened for those guys is they would not listen. I'd be in like board meetings screaming at these guys going, you guys are fucking dinosaurs, you've got to change. And I'm like, I predict in 6 months you'll be bankrupt. And of course they were. They're a marketing company that were not willing to adapt. They were not willing to evolve. And they looked at me as this kind of little crazy maverick that was kind of jumping up and down in the boardrooms, and they were just, their resistance to change was enormous. So I realized from that is that if I've got business partners, I need to have business partners that are interested in personal development, that are interested in growing, that are interested in changing, not dinosaurs that kind of have their head stuck in the ground. And that's what happened. That their business went down, And we didn't just survive, we thrived. A few hiccups along the way. It was quite challenging, but it was very interesting for me, was that I don't just look at, and you may want to write this down thinking about it, I don't just look at the resources that are at the table. I also look at the people that I'm doing business with, okay? The people that I'm doing business with. So that was a really, really big lesson. And I've had multiple lessons. Yeah, Sabina, you have to have people aligned with the value proposition, absolutely. And again, it's measuring people's commitment based on their behavior, okay? Not what they were, oh yeah, I'm interested in this, but they actually weren't living it. They weren't willing to evolve and change. So yeah, interesting, really, really interesting. Is that kind of making sense? Is that helpful? Yep, awesome. All right, let's go to the next page. And the next page is desires, goals, fears. And you could probably put this one up a little bit, but this is that conversation that I was telling you about, where you ask them, what are their desires? What are their goals? What are their fears? So you can probably put this, if you look at your manual at the moment, we've given you this, just looking at this, this is probably, you probably do this just before you do deal points, which is desires, goals, fears. So this is where I'm kind of sitting in the corner in the meeting, just going, tell me what your desires are, what are your goals, what are your fears? And this information helps me with the deal points. Sound pretty good? So it just gives you a structure when it comes into going and doing some deals. A structure in terms of, you know, your thinking. And so when I go into it, I'm thinking, well, what's their ideal deal? What's mine? I'm then thinking, well, what's their desires? What's their goals? What's their biggest fears? And then I'm starting to work out, well, what are their deal points? What are my deal points? And what's the must-haves versus the nice-to-haves? Okay? Because I know I can, you know, give a little bit with those nice-to-haves to use that as a cherry on top to really bring home the deal points that I want, that are a must-have. And then, again, I'm in present time. I'm not stuck in the past or in, you know, anxious about the future. I'm willing to walk away. I'm willing to walk away if I don't get what my musts are. And the musts are, what's your walk away? You've got to know what your walk away is. Otherwise, if you don't know what your walk away is, that's when you don't have boundaries. And then suddenly you can do a deal where it's kind of like a, you know, you're losing, they're winning. How you start is how you finish, everybody, as I've said to you before. How you start is often how you finish. And this is really, really big, especially if you're dealing with people that are at a higher level. And if you're late to a meeting, especially if it's the first one, then bang, how you start, how you finish. You'll be tarred by that brush for the rest of the relationship. Okay? And this is where you being the apprentice is really good. Willingness to learn in deals, like willing to listen to the other people, willing to learn from them. One of the things that I do when I do business consulting with people is this same approach. Instead of me going into a business and going, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, I first want to learn. Tell me, you've been running this business a lot longer than me, you know things that I don't know, teach me. Teach me, educate me. I want to go into their model of the world. And the same thing is when it comes to a deal. Like, you've been thinking about this for a while. Give me all the information. Tell me everything. Okay? What's the ideal deal for you? Okay? What are the must-haves? What are your desires, your goals, your fears? Tell me everything. Okay? And then we balance it. We balance it with giving and receiving. And as I said to you, when you're in present time and you're not operating from wounds, you're okay with walking away. If you're not meeting your must-haves, you're okay. It's not a problem. Then all you do is you ensure that you've got the right mentor that has the right network. And if you don't, you just go and find the right master, mentor, get into that network, get them to teach you the deals, and then bang, that becomes part of your network. And then you find the next master and the deal gets bigger. You go from micro deals to macro deals. Okay. So Chris Julian, have you had deal makers contact you after you walk away? Absolutely. A lot of the time. Yep. Even someone on this call, John, I did a little micro deal with him the other day and he called me back. And I knew you would. I knew you would because the deal was good. And again, I knew what my must-haves were in that situation. And also at the same time, like, you know, with the stuff that I do, I just love helping people. So I can get into trouble, right? I can get into major trouble when I'm coaching people because that's my challenge, is the rescuing part of me will go, oh, well, I just want to help you, and, you know, I'll drop this and I'll do this and all that type of stuff. But there is a limit where I'll go these days. Whereas before, you know, I was almost anyone. So I was a walkover. And the problem with that was that, again, if your relationship starts like that, then as a master client type of relationship, then your client will then just walk over you constantly. They won't be committed. They won't listen to you. They won't follow through. So that's why you've got to be kind of cruel to be kind. Is that making sense? And yes, the deal isn't personal. Never personal, just business. Unless it is a deal within a personal relationship. But when it comes to business, I like to, you know, really be in present time, be clear on my boundaries, and remember this concept of how you start, is how you finish. Good. Any other questions? I think there is another section to this. Okay, to achieve any success, all that you need to do is just help other people become successful. How powerful is that? The old Zig Ziglar. To achieve any success, all that I need to do is just help other people become successful. And the thing about it is that you need to know what they want. To achieve any success, all that I need to do is help other people. We actually need to know what they want or what their definition of success is. Think of how powerful this statement is. Okay? So one of the things that I do, and this is what I love about coaching, is that I'm always wanting to find out, well, what do you actually want? What is your definition of success? Okay. Okay, John, good question. How do you structure the negotiation, especially when the client straight up wants to know the price? Can you give me an example?
Yeah, so we get most of our leads come from people asking what the price is, and obviously we want to go through a value proposition and explain to them, you know, what's involved. But do you normally just go straight into it and form like some sort of reply that can, you know, get the deal done quicker, or do you have to go through the full, you know, runabout of explaining them the product or the positives and what the benefits and that? How would you go about it?
It depends what the service is. It really depends what the service is. If it's like a mainstream service, then, you know, you can probably talk about price relatively quick. But if it's not necessarily a mainstream service, like it's boutique or it's an emerging industry, like a lot of people think, like if we just take the coaching hat for 1 minute on this, like a lot of people would say, oh, well, the coaching industry, it's saturated. Well, the reality is it isn't, because most people don't know what coaching is. Like you can walk down the street and you can say, well, what is coaching? And what is the process of coaching? And they will invariably say, well, coaching is someone telling you what to do, some guru telling you what to do. Well, that's actually not what coaching is. Coaching is non-advisory. It's a process of assisting a person to make positive changes. It's not doing it for them. It's not telling. It's assisting. So if you think of this statement, to achieve success, all that I need to do is just help other people become successful. It's not me doing it for them. It's me helping. It's not me telling them. It's me helping. It's creating a really supportive environment so that they grow. Now, part of that supportive environment might be challenging them, challenging their wounds, challenging their patterns. Yeah. Okay? So getting back to your question, if it's a boutique type of profession, then there needs to be an education process.
Sure.
Which is where, the approach could be, well, we have a range of different services. What I'd really like to understand is what exactly you want. And how to do that is that I'd love to catch up with you one-on-one. We'll work out all of your, your wants and needs and desires. And then I will share with you all of the packages that, are based on exactly what you want and the price range that will suit you. When would you like to catch up?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, if it's a mainstream service, like a doctor or accountant, all that type of stuff, there's a mainstream price that they're all stuck in. This is a challenge with sometimes calling yourself an accountant or a doctor because you are stuck in that price point versus if you reposition yourself as an expert getting a certain result, then you've got a blue ocean where you can fundamentally charge whatever it is that you want if you create your own industry or you become the authority of an industry, if that's making sense.
Yeah, so that's the ideal situation anyway, right?
Yeah, and with that, it requires an education process. And that education process really kind of shares with your potential client why you're different from everybody else and the benefits of working with you. And that's when you can position yourself as an authority. You can do deals that are bigger because you only want a certain client. Yeah. And because the deal's bigger, you can put more energy into them, okay? And ensure that they get that outcome. The most dangerous thing, and this is what typically people do early on, is they try and be all things to all people. Now, the problem with that is that you're going to lose. The generalists lose, whereas the specialists, they make more money, they get more recognition, they get better results. Like, think about it. You've got a general practice doctor, a GP, versus a neurosurgeon. Who's going to make more money? Now, what has the neurosurgeon done? They've specialized in a specific area and have become the best.
Yep.
Okay? Now, in order to get that, there's an education process that needs to happen around the story of that expert and why their services, more exclusive than everyone else. Like, if you look at the best in the world, think about this. The best in the world say no more than yes. Like, if you want to work with, say, Tony Robbins and do one-on-one work with him, majority of the time he's going to say no. Because he's really clear on who his target market is. And because of that, the price point is very, very high. And a lot of the time, the price point is so high to get rid of everyone else so that you're left with that one person that is your ideal customer and you can give them everything. See, this is the key. Like, the key to business to me is to fall in love with your customer. That's the key. Don't fall in love with what you do in terms of your practice. I'm really good at NLP or speaking or coaching. No, fall in love with that one customer. That's the key. And find a way to make them successful. Remember, to achieve any success, all that I need to do is just help enough other people become successful and I become successful. Sound pretty good? Is there any more questions at all before I bring Julian up? Is Julian on at the moment?
I am.
Hey, Jules.
Hey, Matt.
We can't see you.
Do you
we can't see you. Yeah, we want to see you. If we can.
Yeah.
All good if we can't. Here he is.
I'll put the video on. You can see me now.
We can see it now. So what we've been talking about today is deals. We've been talking about business. Last session, everybody came up with a list of their $1 million idea. And I thought, who would be the best person to do this presentation today? And I think you are, mate. So Julian is a bit of a mentor to me. And he also is a partner in the Troublemakers arm of the business. And Julian is probably the biggest troublemaker I've ever met in my life. I thought I was. And some of the stuff that Julian does is pretty incredible. The deals that he is able to do, but also the network that he has. His network is some of the wealthiest people in this country, if not the world. And it blows my mind every time I chat to Jules of the deals that he does, the pivots that he does, and the value of those deals. So, Jules, thank you so much for being here and
Pleasure.
sharing to our Elite Leaders group. And so take it away, my friend.
Okay, guys. So I'll give you a little overview on me, and then I'll talk about identifying, ways to get deals done and the process that I work through myself. So in a nutshell, I built a number of different businesses. Some of you know who I am. Some have never heard of me. I recently bought back some of my vodka company and got rid of James Packer and De Niro, and I've built the company globally now. It's now a real force to be reckoned with, and I'll probably sell it next year back to Asahi, where I sold my previous company to. Vodka 6100, to talk about deals. I've just signed the biggest distribution deal in the US this morning. So I've been working on that for about 6 months now. So, and I'll go through the deal process with you in a minute. Sometimes deals can really take a long time to happen, and sometimes they're quite quick. But, you have to really understand that sometimes the toing and froing can take forever. And this deal went on forever, but it's one of the best deals that I have signed in my favor, I should say. So that's very, very exciting. I can talk about that after I go through all the points. My other business is fire technology. I created a company called FireTech, which is providing a solution to putting fires out around the world, both internally and also externally, in terms of cars and buses and trucks and all the above. And it's called FireTech Global. You can actually look it up, and it's actually very exciting technology that we've developed and we're selling around the world. And my final little endeavors really only happened in the last couple of months, because as we all know, in isolation, we're all sitting around looking for ideas and looking for ways to build businesses. And I came up with a business partner of mine, an opportunity, and we set up a company to basically sell PPE for COVID-19 globally. So 6 weeks ago, we started it. It's called Blue Mirror. And now we've sold over 200 million masks, 100 million isolation gowns, and 50 million goggles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So insane amounts. But we've managed to get into, and using all my contacts around the world, which I reached out to, governments. We're dealing with the Canadian government, Pakistani government, Indian government, Saudi kings, the Australian government, you name it, we're talking to them. So we've actually exported to over 126 countries in the last 3 weeks. So it's been an insane schedule for me. I don't sleep often, but I've only been sleeping 2 hours a night. So I've been awake now since 1 a.m. So I won't be going to bed again until about 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. So those sort of deals are fun, and it's just been adapting to stuff. So that's really just a little overview on me. And now I'm going to talk about how I process how I go about doing a deal, and the steps I take to make it successful. Are you all there still? Maddie, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, mate.
So really, I think the important thing to start with is really identifying the decision maker. I always find that, a lot of people think they're making decisions in companies and will come to you and tell you that they're the decision maker, and then they've got to refer to their boss and so on and so forth. And that's really time wasting. And it's also quite annoying, especially if you've pitched the wrong person. So I'm a great believer in actually identifying who finally is going to make the decision and try and set up a meeting with that person. And the way you really approach it is, obviously it's going to be very, I think professional is probably the right word, but also personable. I think that when you pitch to a company, it's really important that you care about their business. and that you've really done your research on that company or that project or that person, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's really, really important, because that way you're cutting to the chase. And more importantly, you're identifying the person that will be able to give you the paycheck, identifying the person that will be able to sign the document, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really the most important part of beginning the process. I think the other thing too is a lot of us don't create a sense of urgency. I think you've got to create a sense of urgency. Like, obviously, this process of signing a deal with this company in America called Vision, it took 6 months. Now, you know, I wanted it done 4 months ago, but they were the ones taking longer, and I actually got them to complete it quicker by telling them that there were other interested people out there that wanted the business. There actually weren't, but I made them think that, so that we could get the deal done quicker. So really, it's looking how you approach the sense of urgency. It's not being complacent. It's really seeing how can you really get this deal across the line. There's ways of doing it. I mean, obviously, you know, some of us, and Matt does the same thing, you know, we can offer discounts if you can make a decision quickly, you know, throw in something free. Everyone loves something free. And make them feel like they've got the upper hand throughout the whole negotiating, even though they may not. And I think that's really important, because I think if you try and believe that you've got the upper hand all the time, you'll find that sometimes it's quite easy to get them to make the decision quicker if they feel they've got the upper hand. Obviously they don't, you know, because you've got the upper hand, but I think it's nice to put that position across. So I'm quite humble when I do these deals. They don't realize that my brain's going 2 million miles an hour, and I've already got the solution at the very, very beginning of the conversation. Now, what I generally do too when I'm doing these deals is I try and create something which I call as a landmine map. And what that means really is that you don't want to trip over, you don't want to have something come back at you that you didn't cover. So do really do your research and make sure that whatever you're pitching, you know more about it than anyone does, okay? And that's really important, because it overcomes potential objections when you are pitching it in. And if you're getting that close to getting a deal done and you don't, you know, look for what may happen throughout that process and plan for it, it can come back and bite you in the ass, okay? So it's really important to create a landmine map, and that way it allows you to feel at least ahead of your game. I think the other thing that I find is really important too, in a lot of the companies I've built, is your competitive advantage. And the really important thing is know who your competitors are. You know, sometimes you may not have competitors, but sometimes you might, okay? So it depends on who you are and what sort of business you're in. But everyone generally has competition. But it's really knowing who they are, what they're doing, and what your point of difference is. Because that's really important, because people want to go, well, hang on, you're another accountant. You know, why are you going to be special for me and my company and my needs, you know? I think it's important to really get that message across to someone that you are special, that what you're offering is unique. And that's a really, really important part of the process. And it's differentiating yourself from everyone else in that marketplace, okay? And I think finally, for me, it's when you're doing this pitch, you know, always remain professional, but try and be real as well and personable, because people are attracted to that. I think sometimes when we all try to be too clinical, everyone just goes, oh, it's just a number, it's another suit, it's another this. I generally go into meetings in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and I don't do barefoot, but I do wear gym shoes or whatever. So I don't dress as a suit unless I have to. I find that it constrains me in thinking outside the box. I like to have everyone in the room, you know, generally wearing suits. It makes me feel a little bit more competitive advantage. But if they're all in jeans and t-shirts, I have no problems with that either. So really, I think at the end of the day, you know, the process of doing a deal is quite unique. And you'll find that you'll do a lot of deals and you'll make some mistakes. And I'm a great believer, I'm now about 196 years old. But in the process of being 196 years old, I have made a lot of mistakes. I try to minimize those number of mistakes now as the process goes on. So I still make mistakes, because we'll always make mistakes, but I think you learn from them, and then you can bounce back and have that competitive edge and that competitive advantage. And deals, you know, however big or however small, I treat every deal with the same energy and the same commitment. And I think that's really important. I think it's also important to spread your risk, because all of us sometimes go, God, if I get this deal, you know, I'm fine. I can live and feed myself for the next 6 months and everything else. I don't think that way. I just think of every deal as the same. You know, so if a deal is going to give you a revenue for 2 days, or a deal is going to give you a revenue for a year, I treat every single deal the same way. And I think that way you don't sort of allow it emotionally to put you down if you don't get the deal done. Maddie, do you want to jump in here?
Sure. Jules, do you want to go through some of the big deals that you've done? Like, and maybe even start with the Pick with a Punk.
But that was, yeah, I can go with that. And then I can talk about the Asahi deal that took over a year. And I was with you in a hotel room in the Gold Coast, if you remember when we did that deal.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of these guys and girls are doing kind of the smaller deals at the moment. So maybe take them through the journey from micro deals to macro deals.
Okay, well, we'll start with the micro one, which is when, I mean, obviously the first thing I ever did was about the age of 8. You know, I set up a little bicycle repair shop in India. And I remember all my friends at boarding school in England, you know, told me that they'd get pocket money for delivering milk and magazines and newspapers and so on. But, you know, in India, where I was brought up, you know, you couldn't deliver milk and newspapers and magazines because there just wasn't a market for it. So I remember my stepmother saying to me one morning, do you want to come down to a bicycle factory where I know the owner? And I said, yeah, why not? So I went down to this bicycle factory, and I remember looking around thinking, gosh, you know, so much stuff here, bits and pieces and tires and screws and bicycle helmets and hats and God knows what else. Anyway, so I decided to get as much of the stuff as I could. So the guy gave me a box of my bicycle, basically parts to repair bicycles and puncture kits and the whole lot. And I set up a little bicycle repair shop outside our house in India. And every Indian just wanted to have their bicycle repaired by a little white boy on the side of the road. And it was fun. And I remember making my first, I think it was about 1,000 rupees, which would be about the equivalent of, maybe about $3,000 now over about four weeks, which was unheard of. Anyway, I bought my father at the time said, look, you've got to invest this and buy shares in the stock market. And of course I didn't. I just spent it and had some fun with it. But I think that at the end of the day, you look for different opportunities. And I kind of had it in my DNA at the time to go out there and do something uniquely different. And then I went to university in England and a school in England. I came from a fairly lower middle class background. So my parents didn't have much money. And my dad always used to say to me, you know, we'll give you an education and what you do, it's up to you, which I was very happy with. So I thought, well, I've got to try and make my own way. And I was going to school with a lot of well-known parents, children like the Rothschilds, the Ashleys, the Guinnesses and so on. And so these kids had, you know, unlimited amounts of pocket money and you know, nice cars at that age, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, I didn't. So that was fine. I just thought, well, I've got to try and channel my way of making money somewhere else. So I did. I set up something in England. So someone gave me an idea that these punks were just sitting around in Sloane Square in London doing bugger all, but, you know, why don't we do something kind of unique? And I thought, this is a really good idea. So I went to Kodak and I got those cameras where you get the instant photos out of the bottom of those cameras. And, you know, you warm them up under your arm sometimes and you got a photo there. And the fun thing really was Pick with a Punk came to mind. And I thought, well, why don't I do what they do in Disneyland or Disney World, where you go there and you pay to have a photo taken next to Minnie Mouse or Mickey Mouse or Goofy or anything like that. I thought, I'm going to do, you know, Pick with a Punk with a punk. So I started it. I went around all the Dormans hotels in London. I talked to friends because obviously back in those days, there was no internet. You couldn't do any of the traditional marketing. I did flyers. I did the whole thing. And slowly the business really, really picked up. I got Japanese tourists. We put fake shower caps on them with punk hair and fake safety pins. And you get a picture taken next to a couple of famous punks. And, you know, they were at the time, the Sex Pistols I knew quite well. So there was Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious and all these famous punks that, you know, wanted to have their photo taken. So back then we'd sell, you know, the picture with a framework of London Bridge in the background with an instant photograph for about £3 to £4, which is an insane amount of money. But people paid. American tourists paid, Japanese tourists paid, you name it, everyone paid. It was insane. So in 1 year, I made, going back now 38 odd years ago, I made £750,000 back then. So it's about the equivalent of probably only about $5 million now in a year. So it was insane. It was probably the funnest thing I ever did. But with that money, I didn't spend it. I actually invested it and bought a flat in London, which I still own. So that was probably my first foray into thinking outside the block, but building a business quite quickly. And it's very seasonal. I mean, people didn't come down to King's Road when it was piss-shitting with rain. So when it was sunny, summer, that's really where you really could target it. And of course, I was at university at the time, so I actually had to go to school too. So I couldn't just sit down the King's Road and take photos the whole time, but I did have a couple of staff working with me, and we managed to succeed and build that business. And then obviously the punk era ended and the mods came in, and we decided to, close down, and I moved to Australia. So that really was that story. And then I came to Australia, and I started, I worked first in a recruitment company in IT. I didn't know anything about IT, but I did know about selling. And I remember working for this company in my first year. It was insane. I earned, about $400,000 as an employee. And it was just like blew me away. So then my ex at the time and I decided this is just too good to be true. This was around the Y2K period. So year 2000, 1999. And we decided to set up our own recruitment company. And it was a very successful operation. It became the fastest private growing company in Australia of its time. I think our turnover was something around 400 mil, 350, 400 million dollars. We built that up literally in 18 months. So it was insane. I then went on to sell that to Manpower. And at the same time, I started ASM Liquor. So my foray into the liquor market really was an interesting one. So my business partner at the time, Simon, who I knew at the LSE in London, where we went to uni, decided to come to Australia, and I flew him over, and we set up a boutique business selling vodka shots in the bars. And we got picked up by Channel 9. I think it's 60, not 60 Minutes, the other show they have there, where they try and, hunt down people who are not doing a good thing. But anyway, the fun thing was that we got this really bad publicity saying that we sold these little paint pots in bottle shops, and they went home to people's fridges and kids were drinking them, and it's terrible, and what's this company all about? But anyway, what they figured out in the end, they made this huge error, and we didn't sell it in bottle shops. We only sold it in bars, and you could only drink it at the bar, otherwise you couldn't take it home. So anyway, so we got this huge apology from them and a retraction and everything else. But what it did was it put us on the map. So as I say, sometimes any publicity is good publicity. So we built then the brand that came out into Australia called Vodka Ode. So that was, I'm the guy behind Vodka Ode, Tequila Blue, and some other great products. And it was an insane brand. I loved it. We did door-to-door deliveries. We'd go around to bottle shops that didn't have us, like your Woolworths and your Coles ones, like BWS and Liquorland and Vintage Cellars and Dan Murphy's, and ask for Vodka Ode the whole time. And these guys kept on thinking, Vodka Ode, why don't we have got Vodka Ode? Anyway, eventually we'd get calls from the heads of Woolworths and the heads of Coles, and they'd say, we want to have a meeting with you. We want to get Vodka Ode to all our stores. So we went from selling, 100 cases to selling 50,000 overnight. So it was an insane headache to have. And it was like closing massive deals like that was like running. I really loved it. But the fun part was the deal, but then you had to back it up. So we had to make more bottles, we had to bottle more, we had to get more money in to do that. So it was a really interesting process. And so I built ASM Liquor, which became a fairly sizable force in Australia. And about it's actually just under 3 years ago, I got a bang on the door from Asahi. At the time, I'd got Robert De Niro involved with the company as an ambassador to one of my other vodkas, which is called 6100. And it was going okay in the States, but it was only in 6 states. And then we decided to sell the brand to Asahi, and then James Packer and I parted our ways in business. And then I decided when I was in Africa building toilets for kids in schools to buy the company back. And that's when I met Matt again. We were in the Gold Coast, I came back, and we were sitting up there, and I said to him, God, I'm going to buy this frigging company back again. And he's going, okay, sure. I'll look forward to seeing what happens. And then I raised a bit more money for that company. I put more of my money into it. And it was like, oh God, this is a never ending bleed. But I never ever forgot that the reason I did this was because I wanted a bigger check from Asahi in the end. So I just passionately just built this brand over the last 2 years. We're now in 27 states in the US. Today I signed the biggest distribution deal with a company called Vision, which will be going to press next week in America. And it's insane. So now it's going to 50 states. Asahi's now distributing me in Asia and Canada. So they're actually helping me build my brand to then buy me out. So those are the sort of decisions and deals I've been putting together over the last year, which have been, I pinch myself every day thinking, God, how did I manage to do that? How did I get Asahi to buy back in and take my brand to Canada? How did I manage to do this? But it's perseverance. It's like never losing, never, always believe in yourself, but never lose light. I can always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but sometimes it's a long tunnel. And just remember that sometimes it takes longer to get there. And, if I could have, I signed a deal with Asahi 2.5 years ago to distribute in Canada. They just started distributing in Canada last week. Okay, so that's how long that deal took. So when you think something's there and it's done and you walk away from it, don't be that complacent. You always got to think back and think, well, you know what? There's a lot more to this story, and there's a lot more that needs to be done, and you need to just keep that relationship and keep that communication going with the decision maker, so that they finally go, yes, we're ready to go. And Asahi is like a lot of Japanese companies. They're quite slow, and then they get faster, and then when the suddenly they're bitten, they move very quickly. So that's what we did. I knew that process, and I knew how to deal with it. So it was an interesting one. But that's my background, really. I don't really have much more to say. I don't want to bore you all. You'll fall asleep. So, Maddie, do you want to jump back in?
Sure. Does anyone have any questions for Julian? As you know, you've come up with your idea, and you've got, one of the, Australia's probably, if not the world's best deal maker here, sitting with you. Julian sends me pictures, and he's sitting in Harry Triggerboff's office, the Frank Lowy's office, hanging out with Donald Trump, the mayor of New York.
Yeah, but they're all really boring people. I prefer to hang out with you, Maddie.
Oh, thanks, mate. And but one of the things that Julian has is probably the best network that I've ever seen, and that is really the way he's able to do such incredible and big deals. That Julian has really nurtured his network, built long-term relationships, and it's really the old school way of doing business that we teach in our Troublemakers brand. Is it's all about relationships, building relationships, connecting with people, and the bigger the network, the bigger the opportunities, and really working in yourself as a leader so that you attract leaders. So we've got some questions here. What have we got here? We've got one from John, and we've got one from Helen here, actually, and Crystal. All right, let's start with Crystal. Did you work, where are we? Did you work with charities in Africa? That's the first one from Crystal.
No, I worked directly with the people that needed me. So I went to a place called Wela, which is in Kenya, with my family for a holiday, because my wife knew the owner of the place, and in there they said, look, would you be happy to come out and visit some of the schools in the area? And of course we did, and so we went and saw the schools. My twin daughters went and sat in one of the classrooms with the kids, and we then said, look, this is insane, is there anything we can do to help? And of course they said yes, we need books, satchels, bags, and everything else. So I prefer to deal directly with the person that can actually get the recipient in that process. And so then what happened after that is that we went back, and they said the biggest thing that we have here is that we need toilets, because the kids in these schools were all sharing one toilet, both girls and boys, and it was just terrible. It was like holes in the ground stuff. So, it wasn't books, it wasn't bags, it was actually toilets they needed. And nobody in the world wanted to invest money in dunnies, because they thought, oh, look, it doesn't look so good on, being a charitable donation of toilets, but it's actually one of the most important things that they needed. And so we went back and we arranged that to happen, which was great. So I tend not to do the charity stuff if I can help it, because a lot of money that goes into charities doesn't go to the people, it goes to running the charities. And so that's why I prefer to deal at the source. Does that cover your question?
Awesome. Okay, Helen's got a question as well. Julian, what makes you walk away from the deal?
I walk away from more deals than I actually put together. Just gut feeling. I think the biggest thing too is about the person I'm doing business with is so important. If I don't trust them, or I see something that's just not right, I don't do the deal. I tend to hang around with deals that are just so difficult to put together, because I like that sort of competitive advantage. But I sometimes walk away from very simple ones, which, sometimes it's too good to be true to kind of deals. When someone says, if you invest in this, you're going to double your money next week kind of stuff. I tend not to get involved in that. I like the hard work. I like doing a deal with people I really believe in what they're doing, are passionate about it. I think that's really important.
Okay, awesome. Next one is from John. Hi, Julian. How do you follow up and keep the relationship going for 2 years?
With Asahi, it was quite easy, because they just kept on bugging me, and I just continued just going down to Melbourne every 2 months and taking them out for lunch, or they took me out for lunch or dinner and all that sort of stuff. And, just keeping the opportunity and the door open, and telling them all the wonderful things I was doing in China, because I spent about 4 months a year in China building 6100. So I've got it through all the things, and they're seeing all the work that I'm doing in Asia, and they see all the stuff I'm doing in the US. And so obviously they were very keen to be a part of the bigger picture going forward, because they owned the brand in Australia, New Zealand, and Japan, and I owned it everywhere else in the world. So for me, it was knowing that they're going to buy me out at some point. It's about pitching it and just small steps. And I just kept the relationship going, dropped them emails, phone called them, and vice versa. They did the same. That's how we did that one. But it was a long deal, and it's just finally done.
Also add to that, Jules.
Yeah.
From what I've noticed with you as well is that you're very giving. You're always helping, and you, like the first time I met Julian, he brought me a signed bottle of vodka, I think it was, from. I know you hadn't done a deal with De Niro at that stage, but you brought me this beautiful bottle of vodka, and then every time I caught up with him, he had some type of gift. And on all of his travels, so Julian is incredibly generous person.
Well, being a Buddhist, I think you always know in life, you give out, you come back to you in different ways. And I think that's really important to understand. I think the other thing too is, not being complacent, but don't think you're any better than anyone else, because you're not. Everyone thinks, because you got successful in what you do, is that, you're the top of the tree. I've met a lot of very successful people who are absolute dipshits, and I would never go into business with them. And they're arrogant, rude, disgusting, despicable humans. I shouldn't say that, but it's true. And I think that, at the end of the day, I think if you're compassionate about what you do, it's a nice way of approaching the business world. I tend not to go over people. I find ways around people. That's always been my philosophy.
Awesome. Okay, we've got a couple of questions now on health. Okay, so we've got one from Alan. We've got one from Colette. Alan says, I'm very curious as to Julian's health routine, given he only sleeps a couple of hours a night. And again, Colette, how do you maintain your health and balance if your life is business, all about business?
Oh, it's an interesting one. Do you know what? I haven't actually been to bed for the last 2 or 3 days. I wish I had 2 hours sleep last night. But I think going forward for me, obviously we're all in isolation here. Normally I'd be training in a gym, traveling around the world, but I don't. I haven't been at the moment, so I put on about 3 kilos because I hurt my shoulder really badly from boxing a couple of months ago, and I'm rebuilding it now. So I find things all the time. So what I tend to do, which I love, and obviously I'm lucky where I live because I've got a bit of space here, but we could all do it, is I do a deal, I send out 9 emails, and I go for a fast walk around the property. So I do about 10 kilometers a day, and then I do all my sit-ups very early in the morning, so about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I eat small meals throughout the whole day. So I tend not to drink a lot of alcohol at different times. It's quite easy to drink alcohol when you've got a lot of it in the fridge. So I try now, knowing that I'm going to be up at midnight, 11 a.m., talking to people around the world, doing deals. I tend to have a couple of beers around about 5 or 6. That's my my naughty time. And then the rest of the time, I try to eat a lot of fruit and vegetables. I went back to eating meat again. So that's my only naughty thing after being a vegetarian for about 15 years, but I needed the iron. So now I think it's just a balance. I tend not to try and sit in front of the computer all day. I try and balance it. So I've got a couple of computers that are blinking on and off, and a couple of phones that blink on and off. And then I just go for a walk, get my own time, come back, and then attack the next issue that I need to address.
Okay,
and
great.
That's why I'm loving isolation. I know it sounds terrible for a lot of people, but I'm loving it because I'm normally not at home. I'm on an aeroplane. So it's quite nice to be able to just get all these deals done and actually get some exercise at home for a change.
I mean, last year you were gone for like almost 8 months, right?
Yeah, 9 months I was out the country last year. And this year I haven't been anywhere.
Next one, Diane's got a question. Did you ever feel fearful when you took yourself and your businesses to the next level? If so, what did you do to overcome it?
No. I think you're always fearful of anything as you grow, because it's like losing control, or can I do it? Am I going to make it work? But I never really had any mentors that I'd go to ask, what I needed to do. But I think my point of difference was I surrounded myself with remarkable people. And those remarkable people helped me grow those businesses. So it wasn't just me. It was a team of very smart people I put together to get the success. And so therefore, we didn't really have any fear. We had this sort of fun ride, which is like, occasionally you feel like you're hanging on the back of a locomotive going at 1 million miles an hour, and then it starts to slow down and you get more control over it. But that always happens with everything you're doing. And but I think for me, I've got some pretty remarkable people that have worked with me on different things over the years, and so it's quite nice to be able to share the journey with them, because it can be a lonely one if you do it on your own.
Next question. This is from Diane again. With every deal you make, do you go in having an exit plan? When you are prepared to sell it off, if you sell it, do you sell it in its entirety, or do you maintain a role in the business?
You can answer that one for me, Matt.
I could.
I think the question, and I've pitched this so many times with Matt when we do lectures at university and stuff, is that I always have an exit strategy. So even when I buy into a business or start a company, I've always got that sort of Saturn's return strategy, which is really 7 years. Every 7 years, you tend to find something changes fundamentally in your life. And so for me, I built a business in 5 and then exit over the next 2 years. And generally, every single business I've done that. The only one that I haven't done that was the vodka company. I ended up buying it back in again, which was in hindsight now, probably one of the best deals I've done. Before, when I did it, I was like, oh, do I need this headache again? So I think for everything else I've ever done, it's always been that sort of long-term, quick get in. And also, I don't like to hang around. So for me, if I've sold the company, I don't want to be there with another, owner or manager. I just move on to the next project. There you are.
Awesome. Marina, with some of the businesses you started, did you go with your gut instinct, or was it a good idea, or did you have a mentor that you worked with?
No mentors, but gut instinct was probably me. And I'm the sort of guy that has 50 cents in the bank, and I'll bet the last 50 cents on a business. So I don't look at, the need to have fast cars and, food in the fridge and all that sort of stuff. So that I will take care of. People who know me over the years will loan me their car or fill my fridge full of food. So I just literally am I call it like professional gambler in a sense, but I've done a lot of research before I go in. I've really looked at it, I felt about it, I feel comfortable with it, and then I just do it.
Okay, great. Crystal, how can I follow the path to help schools in Kenya and gain hands-on experience?
I can certainly, Matt, I can send you some details and she can contact these people.
Okay, awesome. We can put that on the Facebook page. Adriana, did you have to deal with any emotional blockages at the beginning? It all seems to went smoothly for you from the beginning. Seems you felt good enough to put yourself out there from an early age.
I didn't really, I think for me it was about competition. I mean, I having not had a lot of stuff in your life and then hanging out with school friends that, you'd go home for half terms because my parents lived overseas. I was brought up in the Middle East and the Far East and India most of my life. And so, you'd go home and you'd see a lot of poverty and you'd see a lot of people who had nothing. And then you'd go back to school and in your half-term breaks, you'd go home to someone's castle or, whatever it might be. And you'd go, God, my God, look at this, what a life. And so I always aspired to, like, in those days, money was important to me. It's changed now, obviously. I look at deals now, not for the money, I actually look at deals so I benefit from in other ways. Obviously money's there, but I think my whole vision has changed. I think from the age of 7 or 8 to about 22, 23, 24, it was all about how much money I had, which was good and bad. I think it's a bit ugly personally now when I look back on it, but not the way I work. So, I think my whole strategy's changed as I got, I suppose older. I wouldn't say any more mature. I'm still as immature as I was then, but that's me.
Okay, final question from Sabina. What kept you moving, Julian? Your speed is very profound.
Well, I think it's just, it's complacency. If you sit still long enough, you're just going to drop dead. I find that if I just keep moving and just keep developing new ideas and new things, then, I have a great level of interest in everything I do. And that's really important. And I care about the people that work for me. So, if I've got a good team, I want them to succeed as well. So for me, it's this ongoing fun journey working with, remarkable people. It just gives me the energy to keep going forever. I mean, I know that when I say forever, I think that it's probably in 3 years you can ask me that question. I'm hoping I can slow down and spend some more time, reading books and so on and so forth.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's our final question. I just want to say thanks so much, Julian. You've inspired a whole group of people here, and you can see where, Julian and I probably come in. Julian's great at the macro, I do the micro, and that's what when we built our Troublemakers business breakout program, that's really what we're wanting. Is we want you guys to get runs on the board so that we can take you to places that you would never ever have dreamt of, and really support you on doing the deal, from the small deals right up to the big deals. So we want to challenge you and really get you guys moving. There is an enormous opportunity right now, and you can see Julian pivoted with one of his businesses, Zira. He's done a deal like in record time, is moving enormous volumes, and has potential for enormous profits. So we're at a time right now where a lot of stuff is on wholesale. There's a lot of opportunities. Entrepreneurs solve problems. And so you're connected in this group to Julian and I at the moment. And this is the benefits of doing work like this. So we want to kind of raise a red flag for everyone and go, right, now is the time. Now is the time to launch. Now is the time to execute. Now is the time to kind of challenge yourself. Because if you work on yourself and you start to really see and assess over these opportunities, this could set you up for the rest of your life. Would you agree, Jules?
Yep, totally agree. And the Troublemakers Network, which I love, is just how you feed off each other. And I think that's the most important thing. You know, we saw a lot of people who come and who joined us, and the success that they achieved in a short period of time was mind-boggling. You know, they come in totally lost. They get an idea, they put it together, and they start making a lot of money. It was great to see. And it was a program I really love being involved with. And Matt and I did some amazing stuff. And then we lectured at universities, like Macquarie University, to their third-year entrepreneur students. And before we knew it, 2 students in that class left university, which we didn't tell them that they should do, but they left university and built a massive company, didn't they, Matt? That was a good story, that one.
That was so funny. They rocked up to one of our Troublemakers Mastermind events. They weren't even invited. They just rocked up and said, oh, yeah, well, we've left. We saw your presentation 6 months ago or 8 months ago or whatever it was. And they went and launched gin companies and did their first 60K month. And, you know, the biggest thing is that the fastest way to learn business is to do it. It's never going to be perfect. And you need to be a bit of a troublemaker, make a mess, a sales mess, and then get someone else to clean it up. And I think that's kind of what Julian and I do. I do it more on the micro level. Jules does it on a macro level. But we go and do deals. We go and do crazy deals. And a lot of the time, sometimes you don't know how you're going to fulfill some of that stuff. But you do the deal and you find a way. You create. And that's what we want to suggest to you guys, is to challenge yourself, take a leadership position, connect with a group, connect with a mastermind group, and learn from some people that are doing some good stuff. So, Jules, thank you again, mate, for your time today.
Thank you, guys. So I've got to go now. Have a great, remarkable week, everyone, okay?
Awesome. Thanks, Jules.
Thank you. Bye, buddy.
Alrighty, guys. The next thing that we're going to do is a little bit of planning. Okay? So, have you enjoyed this session so far? Give me some feedback. Fantastic. Good. So, this session's all about business. So we want you to focus on doing some stuff between now and our next session. So you've got a week. What if you went and did a deal, everybody? What if I challenged you to go and do a deal in the next week? And see, the thing is that you learn so much from the deal. A lot of people, they wait and they go, oh, I need a website. I need everything perfect. My product has to be perfect, blah, 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 blah. But in actual fact, you learn so much from just going and doing a deal. Going and, you know, offering an incentive and going, we're in pre-launch at the moment. And this is the thing. This is what I teach everyone is that, especially coaches, go and do a deal. Go and get a deal, because the minute you get a deal, then it means it works. The minute you get cash flow, it means it works. Versus sitting on the fence and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. What if you just went and did a deal? What if you just went and created? What if you dropped this notion of having to do things perfect? What if you connected with the group in here and you asked for help and said, right, this is my ideal customer, and you executed? What if, all right, I'm going to start my video, sorry. What if you spent the next week just making a mess? And so here is my challenge for you. What I'd love you to do is do a video. Yes, I'm going to get you out of your comfort zone. I want you to do a video and post it on this group. And what you're going to do is you're going to share your idea. And then you are going to ask for resources, ask for help. Okay, so you're going to share your business idea, and then you're going to go, hey team, this is what I need right now. I need these resources. And you may even specifically tag people that you think may have those resources as well. But what I want to do here is to connect you all, and for you to start to play the game as a team, as a network, as a mastermind group, and think of the concept of mastermind, a mastermind group. What that means is a collective of minds coming together and being able to tap into that collective consciousness. So there is so much resource. There is so much resource within this group. And I've said this before, you will learn more from this group than you will learn from us. There are so many talented people that are leaders within this group. And it's time to unleash. I often say to my clients, I'm a Ferrari in neutral, put me in drive. So now is the opportunity for you to kind of put your concept into drive. And what if we were able to start to kind of handle the basic stresses in your life, tap into new resources, and really go and serve and play the mission phase? And so that is my challenge for you. It's very, very simple. It is do a deal, execute, make a mess, a sales mess, and start to connect with this group. So do a video. We want to get you out of your comfort zone. Do a video, share your business, and ask for help. That is our session for today, everybody. So as we finish up, I might just throw it out there. Does anyone have any questions for me before we finish? Going once, going twice. Yes, Diane. So just unmute yourself.
Okay, so you say do a deal, but with me, I shouldn't have said that, but sorry.
Yeah, you're on.
Can it count for just a sign up? Because I can't get to completion in a week.
So what if you aimed to get to completion in a week?
You can't settle on property in a week.
No, I know that. But what if you aimed to do, you know, a full service deal by the end of this week? I know you can't complete on it.
Oh, so sign up, start it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
I want to get you out of your comfort zone. Is that making sense?
I've been out of there for so long, I don't even know where it is. Sign up.
I love it.
All right. Okay. And I've got to do a video as well. Thank you.
Yes.
I am blessed.
Video, share it to the group, asking for help, asking for resources, or sharing with the group who your target market is, who your client is.
Yeah, I can do the client. I can do the preferred business partners.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's just the video that I just will love to do.
Awesome. We can't wait to watch it. Alrighty, guys, that is our session for today. I'm really glad you enjoyed today's session, everybody. Love it. So next session, we've got a really good one. We've got a guest speaker. We're transitioning out of money in business into something called relationships. So next session, all about relationships. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Looking forward to seeing all of your videos. And for the new people, welcome. So we've got John, Caroline on here, some newbies. And we also have Chris Julian on here. Wonderful to see you on here, my dear. Welcome to be part of this wonderful group of light workers, shining a light in the darkness for others. And wonderful to see the growth in everyone as well. Like, especially this morning, I was so grateful to see like your mindset shifts that have happened when I said, how do you feel about money? And everyone's going like, I'm excited, I'm confident. So some big shifts that are happening. And remember, everybody, it's not about like the little, in the next 90 days, you're going to be a multimillionaire and all that type of stuff. What's happening here is that we're setting you up for a new direction. It's the butterfly effect. So we're planting seeds for a new direction in your life, everybody. So again, have a wonderful week. We're here to help. Go and do some deals, everybody. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.